Hello and welcome to One Resource Floating, the place where we finally solved the Heart and Crossstrap Deep Blue question because Heart and Crossstrap got banned. That technically lets us both win because it's banned in Blitz. So Heart and Crossstrap was better, but now you can't play Heart and Crossstrap, so you have to go with Deep Blue.
No. Okay, let's clarify. The reason they banned it was because of OTK turns.
Yeah, and Deep Blue can't do that.
No, I don't know where I went with that. That was just a null and void argument, actually. Because if you get OTK, then that's obviously better. But I do agree that OTK is not in the spirit of the game. So I'm okay with it. Anyway, heroes!
Yeah.
I really just want to take that W real quick before
You want to take your small victory, it's fine.
It's only Blitz, but I lost
Blue
Stubby
now
Hammers.
becomes the commoner. Oh, Stubby Hammers was like a blindsided ban card that I was not expecting.
I have a feeling that it's going to allow the new Ninja to do some crazy stuff.
Probably.
Or maybe just Ninja in general, based on what's going to come out, but we'll see.
Yeah, because they could, like the new Draconic Ninja cards, or just Ninja cards in general, will become crazy busted with Uprising now getting slowly spoiled to the joy of me.
Maybe it allows an easier Benji OTK in some form or fashion with new cards.
That would actually be really cool.
I don't think cool is the word I would use for that. But today, we're going to digress from all this and talk about our favorite hero from Monarch, Leviah. Just kidding. It's Shane.
No, we're not.
No, we're not going to talk about Shane.
You threw me off right there.
Yes.
I immediately was like, he's making a joke. None of us said that before going into this.
We're going to talk about Prism.
Let's talk about Prism.
I love Prism. About Prism. We don't talk about Prism. No.
The first and the original now illusionist to ever exist.
I'm so excited for new Illusionist.
She can't be the only one now. I was going to go into this saying she's the only one, but she's not anymore because they've kind of teased that, which I'm actually really excited for, the new illusionist.
The new one is not the blue one, though, so that's kind of a surprise.
No, she's going to be a red illusionist.
Yeah. Prism, her ability, it's a once per turn instant that costs 2 resources. Banish a card from Prism's soul. Create a Spectral Shield token. A Spectral Shield token is just something that replaces, it takes the damage instead of you, and it can only take 1. And what's interesting, cards in soul, Prism is going to have that term in this set, as well as Bolton, and it's interchangeable with the term charge. And it's pretty much just put a card under your hero if you meet the prerequisites to do that.
Do we even talk about that we were going into Monarch with this, or did we just fly over that?
I'm sorry?
Did we mention that we're talking about Monarch, or did we just go straight into this?
I think we went straight into it. We're talking about Monarch.
It's Monarch!
Yeah.
Yay, Monarch.
The set that actually got a lot of people at our LGS into Flesh and Blood. This guy included. I don't know where he is.
Bottom?
Camera oriented. He's on the bottom for me. Cool. Right here. I talked him into trying Flesh and Blood when Monarch released.
Yeah, and it was good.
And then
all my legendaries and decks later.
And then Shane existed and everyone hated it. No, and then our good buddy Chris, who has been on the show, also got into it when Monarch released. And then he was like, whoa, rune blades are a thing. I'm just gonna make this my whole personality.
Oh,
Monarch was
Let's talk about Prism.
Monarch was a set where the game pretty much exploded and got a lot of people into it. So we had we had some first edition, and then to Unlimited with Welcome to Wrath, and then we had some Arcane Rising, and then Crucible of War. And when Monarch came out, the game they doubled the amount of printed boxes, or more than doubled.
Well, they also introduced the Blitz decks and stuff.
Yeah, it introduced the Blitz decks, and I know just as a retailer standpoint working in the LGS, it was the first set that was actually available upon its release time. Like, we had first edition boxes when they released. We had the unlimited boxes and the blitz decks when they released. So it was the first set to finally meet that print demand that Flesh and Blood was getting over the course of time. Because Flesh and Blood did come out October 2019, right before a pandemic hit. So that whole year of 2020 kind of slowed them through their printing processes and everything. So Monarch was actually like sort of that set that put them out there. And I believe, in the words of the creator of Flesh and Blood, Monarch was the set he wanted to release first.
I never heard that, actually.
But I might be remembering that wrong. I don't know.
It's a set that Kayla wanted first, let's be honest.
No, I want Uprising. I want
Monarch's a good
Uprising.
set, all in all.
I want a new
Monarch is
illusionist.
a phenomenal set. It has cool heroes. It has these two dynamics of light and dark, which are really cool, and it has the generics, which a lot of the generics are staples across deck.
So we're going to talk about, as we alluded to before, because I read off the card and we talked about the hero, Prism from Monarch, who is our first illusionist, as was said before by, I think Kayla said that. And do you have any information about Prism? Is there any fun lore stuff that we need to know?
I actually am not that up to date on Prism's lore. I've not
I
read a
know
lot of
absolutely
it, other than she wasn't a girl of high stature, but she took a lot of pleasure in the library of Solana.
The Great Library of Solana.
Great Library of
Because
Solana,
that's a
which
card.
is the first sort of landmark fable to also hit the game of Flesh and Blood.
All right, so
All right.
Sure, quick aside.
Prism has two weapons that everybody can be familiar with. The first one is the Iris of Reality, which comes in with during your action phase, illusionist auras you control are weapons with 4 attack and once per turn action, 3 resources. Attack, go again. And then she has Luminaris. And why would you play Luminaris? You should just play Iris of Reality for the rest of your life and not even realize that Luminaris is a thing. I'll play it just to play test it. Everyone else play Iris. Just kidding.
Yeah, I was just say, hold up.
Just-
Luminaris is blown up.
Not even a good joke.
No.
Yeah,
it's not.
I mean, in limited, Iris of Reality is wonderful because you're gonna have those turns of I'm gonna spectral. God, I can't remember what the card's called.
Spectral Shield?
Prismatic Shield. What are you going?
Prismatic Shield. Thank you. I was like, what's the word in front of shield? Prismatic Shield. Create 3 shields and then pitch 2 blues and go 4/4.
So,
Iris is actually pretty decent and limited just because it's good to push damage if you're able to keep spectral shields out.
Yeah, 4 damage plus go again. It is pretty costly. Like 4 for 3 resources, you could say is not that good. But when you look at weapons like Titan's Fist and Anothos, who are also coming in for 4 for 3 resources with stipulations, it's not that bad.
the problem with
You're also
Iris of
keeping cards in the
Reality-
deck and you're pitching.
Yeah, the problem with Iris of Reality, I feel like in limited, is that you really need to have the cards to go with Iris of Reality, and if you don't, then Iris of Reality can fall flat.
I said, if your opponent's not able to do enough damage, you can usually block out most of their attack, keeping your spectral shields online, and then just pitching into them is usually the
Yeah.
game plan.
At least 2 blues in hand, you're coming in for 8 damage that turn. Which, in a limited standpoint, is a lot of damage in a turn.
That is correct.
Prism's great and limited.
Then we have
It's really-
Luminaris, which is the weapon you should never run. It's during your action phase. Illusionist auras you control are weapons with 1 attack, but a measly 1 attack. And once per turn action, it costs 0 to attack. I mean, it costs 0 resources, but you get 1 attack out of it. While there is a card with a yellow color strip in your pitch zone, illusionist attacks you control have go again.
Yep.
I mean, but yeah.
It's so balanced.
It's so balanced.
How it operates.
So
It's so
good.
balanced.
It's so bad.
I think
It's
great.
so balanced. I mean, it's not like the entire deck is going to have illusionist attacks in it. That's preposterous. It's not like someone's going to run 60 yellows in a game. That's preposterous.
I'm going to tell you a secret right now. Everything we said, if you have any type of constructed deck that is not limited, they're going to have Luminaris. Or they don't
and they're going
know.
to have bare minimum, like, what, 18, 23 auras?
Let's see. 3 Parables, 3 Mercifuls, 3 Odes, 3 Genesis, 3 Shimmers, 3 Passings, 3 Haze Bending, 3 Pierced Reality. I didn't do the math. How much is that?
Hold on. Say it again.
Okay, actually I missed some too. So 3 Genesis, 3 Arclight Sentinels,
Okay.
3 Parable of Humility,
Okay.
3 Merciful Retribution,
Okay.
3 Ode to Wrath,
Okay.
3 Shimmers of Silver,
Okay.
3 Haze Bending,
Okay.
3 Passing Mirage,
Okay.
and 3 Pierced Realities, I think is it.
So 9 times 3 is 27. So that's 27.
I was so close, actually. I said like 23. So 27 is actually very close. That's too many. And just so you know, all 27 of those are coming in for 1 on Prism.
Or if Ode's out, then 2 technically.
Or, well,
God.
if Shimmers and Ode
1 damage. Oh, if Shimmers and Ode now, you've already lost the game.
Yeah, Shivers and Ode, and then they get Merciful Retribution out, and then so you're like, well, I'll take out Ode, but now you're actually taking 1, so it's still dealing 1 damage, which is dealing 2 damage.
I have come to find a lot of appreciation for Haze Bending, too. Haze Bending's incredible.
Oh, Haze Bending is such a good card.
Haze Bending's so good.
So we can talk a little bit about Luminaris here.
Balance.
And, well, we're going to talk about Luminaris. Assume everything we talk about for the rest of the video is going to be having Luminaris included. Because...
Just assume.
Because why wouldn't you?
Wow, I can turn 8 auras on the field into 8 separate sources of damage with 1 yellow. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, and then come in like a Celestial Cataclysm for 7 go again.
So Prism's really interesting that we've had a couple of heroes that we've talked about before. I'm sorry, I'm going to move it on.
You're good. Sorry, we're derailing.
I know. It's okay. I'm going to do it too. But I just did it now. Okay, anyway. Need to kick into gear myself. So Prism's really interesting because she is one of the first heroes that we see. There, actually, I shouldn't say that because there have been some like it before. But she really has 2 different play styles that are that you see. There is the beatdown Prism, which is going to play a lot of heralds at you, and a lot of the heralds will have a keyword called Phantasm. So if you defend them with 6 or more attack, boom, then that attack is gone. It doesn't resolve. Just close the combat chain unless you have fun stuff to do afterwards with an equipment that only she has. Next, there's another keyword that is on the auras that Prism has. That keyword is Spectra. Ben, tell us about Spectra.
Spectra essentially says while you can target the aura for an attack, and when you do, it is destroyed, but the attack does not resolve. So go again or any hit effects or anything like that on the card do not resolve. So you're basically just using up an attack to try to clear the board.
Yep. It closes the chain immediately.
So if you have a go again attack, it's gone. But if you have an action point, then there's your chance to keep going.
Action point is separate entity from go again as a keyword.
Yeah, because go again will be resolving the card, which the card resolves with the attack because the go again is on the card that you played with the attack. So that doesn't get to resolve. I said that very convolutedly.
Mm-hmm.
So there's...
Pretty much when you attack an aura, there's a good chance your turn's over.
Yeah, so you have go again, which is kind of like a word to say the action point you started with is refreshing because of go again. But when you attack a card with Spectra, it erases the go again off the card almost. So it's almost like you didn't even have the go again, in a sense, if that's easier to understand. But having 2 separate action points is different than having go again, if that makes sense.
So go for action points. Heroes, I think, that do well against Chain, or against Prism.
Whoa!
Heroes that I think do well against Chain is a lot shorter of a list than the heroes that I think do well against Prism.
No one.
Heroes that do well against Prism, I think Chain, because he has a lot of go again things. Katsu is not very, how do I say, relevant in the meta right now, but I think he can do better because he has a lot of go again things. He can attack Prism, and then he can finish it off with going for an aura.
Any hero that can go wide and push damage and destroy an aura in the same turn is a trickier matchup for Prism.
Yeah. If you were doing at least 2 or 3 attacks to Prism herself, aka the player you're playing, if you can do 2 to 3 attacks to them, and then on the 4th attack a card with Spectra to close out the combat chain, that is a pretty decent turn. Whereas some heroes, like Guardians, Warriors limited to some, and Brutes have one sort of almost big attack, they don't have that chance to split the damage to person versus Spectra. They can only choose one or the other. And in choosing Spectra, you're kind of saying this thing is more of a threat than the player itself, which most often or not it is. But it also will slow your game down in doing the damage you need to win the game.
So Dash, it's really, really good to bring Dash in because she can get action points.
Dash is good. You miss on high octane.
But yeah, Dash is hard in the meta, but there are some great things that can block a damage, like a single damage. So there are some cards she has that's anti-Prism tech, anti-Viscera tech, but they can overall, she's not the
There's
best.
Actually a card that is generic that is anti-Prism in This Round's on Me, where it's all attacks get -1 targeting you, but everyone gets to draw a card. So it is a double-edged sword in that if you're facing a Prism and you have This Round's on Me, none of those auras, unless Shimmers or Silver is out, are going to come through. But you are also giving your opponent an extra card in hand.
I thought you were going to say lead the charge when you went to generic.
What is it?
I thought you were going to say lead the charge when you said generic, but...
Lead the Charge is also a really good one, but it's hard for Brutes and Guardians to pull off because they don't really have a lot of
it's tricky
cost
for them.
2/1 or zeros, which are Lead the Charge's forte. But This Round's on Me, I think, is a great sideboard for CC play against Prism, and the fact that if you can get it off on a turn where you know a lot of auras are coming, it's great. But can you withstand that extra card in their hand? Is
That's
the give
tricky,
and take of it
like
all.
having cards.
Exactly.
I've played so many games where I looked at a giant turn of taking 20 damage, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I'm just gonna keep my hand though.
Yeah, and that's so scary for some Prism who's running Luminaris, where everything can have go again with a yellow, and with most Prism builds, it's guaranteed that they're going to have at least one yellow.
They should have a yellow in hand at pretty much every turn.
Yeah.
So going into the Prism, the auras are going to be very detrimental, and they all do something that's key. And just to talk about a few auras that are of note, I guess we can all say maybe our favorite aura or what we don't like to see on the board. My favorite one is Genesis, which is you put a card into your soul at the beginning of your turn. And I should read this because I will mess it up.
It's specific.
I have it right here if you want me to read it.
At the start of your turn, you put a card from your hand into your hero's soul. If it's an illusionist card, create a spectral shield token. If it's a light card, draw a card. A majority of your cards that are going to be in your deck are going to be light illusionist. So you might as well do both anyway. You put one.
Load your soul, create auras, draw a card. It's
Yeah.
an incredible value engine. When left unchecked, will lose you the game.
Yep.
It is definitely a win more card. Like if that hits, you need to destroy it instantly. There's
Oh,
no
is it?
question about
If
it.
I've ever had a Genesis for more than one turn, you don't know how to play against Prism.
In the last game I played against Ben with my dash, I did some stuff like I boosted and whatnot, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna end my turn. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna play a Genesis, and I was like, I'm gonna pop Achilles Accelerator and gain an action point and just shoot that Genesis in the face.
Which probably was smart.
Best idea on my part, like, because he gave me that opportunity to do that, so I was gonna make full advantage. Plus, I think my pistol was already loaded, so it was just remove, shoot that Genesis. All right, bye bye.
Nah.
And especially Genesis is an instant. A lot of her big auras are, and that's something that maybe you think about with instants can be played in response to an action. So if you can find yourself ending with a turn with go again, and a small little attack that you're not minding just holding back on, so like maybe you swing a weapon for 2 damage, nothing big, then that could be a good chance where Prism, if you pass priority, the Prism has a chance to play her instant. If she plays an instant, like if you go turn 1 and she plays, okay, I'm going to play Genesis down, that reopens the window for you to do something. So take that out going into the second turn. Like don't let her have it. If you can some way make something happen.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people have learned how to play against Prism this meta, because when this meta first started, when I was playing Prism, I was getting off instants like crazy. Now people know to end their turn with an action point.
Yeah,
so
like
it makes playing instants so much harder.
If you're a ninja and you have like a Kodachi swing just sort of like hanging in the air, just be like, I'm gonna move to Arsenal just to see what the Prism does. And if they don't do anything cool, you just don't do that Kodachi swing, you just Arsenal your card or whatever. But if you're like, I'm gonna move to Arsenal, and they're like, cool, I'm gonna play a Genesis or an Arclight Sentinel, be like, all right, Kodachi for 1. Just get it out of the air. If you're a dash, I know it sucks to pop Achilles, but just do it. High octane turns, definitely do it. Other heroes, it's going to be a lot harder for you because action points are harder to come by. Well, for Rune Blades, it's pretty easy.
It's really hard to push damage and destroy auras.
Yeah, that is. Oh god, it's so hard to do both for some heroes that are not go wide if they're more go tall.
I say Guardians generally, and then
Brutes generally. Well, no, it's changing a bit. I say that, and I know it's changing. Yeah, they typically, if it's constructed, they will run Mandible Claws with the idea that they're going to attack Mandible, given resources. So if a brute attack...
And they have access to Scab Skins, which makes taking out auras that much easier. And they have every single card pops Heralds.
Yeah, I shouldn't say brutes have a hard time when they actually have, like, they are a very actually good.
I mean, they're still beatable, but they can be really tricky.
Yeah.
To get around.
We're going off again, Andrew.
That's okay. No, I thought this was a good conversation. I think the only class that you don't see that typically gets pitted up against Illusionist in the finals is Runeblade. Just Runeblade can't keep up at all. They just fall apart.
No, Runeblade can out-aggro the hell out of this.
I was going to say, I don't know what meta you're watching, but Runeblade's like, hello, welcome to the race. I'm at the finish line. Where are you?
Yeah, no, that was a joke. Going back on topic. I'm sorry.
Not funny.
Auras. Ben, tell me your favorite aura.
Oh, yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, we were talking about
my favorite one to see in the late game is Ode to Wrath. Because if you get Ode to Wrath down and you have already 6 other auras, that game is going to be so hard for your opponent to recover. You're pushing so much damage for so little cost.
Do you have Ode to Wrath with you? Do you want to read it?
Yeah, I have it somewhere here. I will find exactly what it says. Well, maybe if I swear I have one in this deck. There it is. This aura says, whenever a source you control deals damage to an opposing hero, they lose 1 life. Illusionist attack action cards you control have go again, which, well, that is nice. Doesn't usually matter. What really matters is it turns all your little 1-ping auras into 2-ping auras, which doesn't sound like a lot, but then you think that's double damage for what they would normally do. So you turn like maybe a 3 or 4 point turn into an 8-point turn with 1 card in hand.
And psychologically, it hurts because you're still swinging a 1. Like, it's just, I'm taking
They don't wanna
extra
block it.
damage if that goes through.
And it's all individual pings. Every single separate source of damage requires another resource to block it, whether it be a card or an equipment or something else. It's hard to get around if you get Odarath with a lot of auras down.
Yeah, Odarath is one of the auras, along with Genesis, that you want to destroy immediately.
Start back up. Kayla, what would be your favorite Prism aura to have on board?
I'm actually kind of torn between two. My gut instinct is Merciful Retribution, because it actually won me a lot of games in like early Monarch time when I played Prism. But now with Everfest, I really like passing Mirage because I was not a aura heavy Prism player in the beginning. I was a Herald heavy player, which passing Mirage is your first illusionist attack each turn. It loses and can't gain Phantasm, which, given certain cards that Prism has, is brutal. Oh my god, like just getting rid of Phantasm on one of her cards against a certain type of player is like, oh, you thought you could pop it, well, you can't. This is now coming in for like 11 damage with no Phantasm.
So, and just to rewind a little bit and let everyone know, Merciful Retribution, do you have that with you, or do you want me to read it?
Yeah, I was going to read it off too. So, it is a light illusionist instant aura. Whenever an aura or attack action card you control is destroyed, deal 1 arcane damage to target hero. If it's a non-token light card, put it into your hero's soul. So, basically that means if Merciful Retribution is out on the field and you're playing a Prism with a lot of spectral shields, every time you attack and they're like, alright, I'll take 6 and my 5 spectral shields are going to pop, it's now coming back at you for 5 damage, which is killer in some matchups. But it's also like when you attack with an attack action card, if they try and pop it with a 6 or more attack, well, that's still coming at you with 1 arcane. So it's so just brutal in all play styles of it's retribution in the most just not merciful way. It's not merciful in any way, shape, or form. It is killer retribution is what it should have been called.
What is really not fun about it is I am someone who enjoys playing Lexi. Frostbites are, I like Ice Lexi, let's be honest here. Frostbites are an aura.
Yep.
Yeah, they are.
You put them under your opponent's control.
Yeah.
If you put them under a Prism's control
And they
with Merciful Retribution and they pop, that's arcane damage.
Mm-hmm.
That's so gross.
I'm going to swing 7 at you this time. Okay. Well, as an instant, I'm going to respond and play a Merciful Retribution. Oh, crap. That's how that turn goes.
It's
a lot of ping damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's like the gross thing about it is a lot of it isn't even like it's with Prism now, and I complained about the meta a bit because I was salty, but I was also having a really bad day, so I wanted to complain. The meta right now is just the number 1. It's like everything is increments of 1. And that is so annoying because it's such a minuscule number. But when it's 9 1s in a row, it's so annoying. And even with Rune Blades and Arcane Damage, where it's like, here's 12 Rune Chants coming at you. It's 12 instances of 1. And it's so just infuriatingly good. Like it's good gameplay, but it's just disgusting to play against. Is just the number one.
The other thing to note is that the big character also runs a 1. So if you look at Starvo, instead of running 9 1s, he's going to run 1 9, and it's going to dominate. I was kidding.
But in a game of 40 health, it's like, I'll take 1 9 and then deal 9 1s, and then take like 1 5 and then deal 9 1s, and then it's gonna be, I'm gonna take 3 and then deal 12 1s.
Yeah, but against the 1 9, you're like, okay, I'll block 3 of it. Against like the 9 1s, you're like, I can block 1 of those if I take a card from my hand, but I'm still gonna take 8.
It's your cards block for 2 and 3. Your equipment block for 2 and 3. Using a card that blocks 3 on an attack that costs 1 is disgusting. It makes you feel wrong. It's not viable in the game. Blocking a card that comes in for 6 with 3, you're like, I'm only taking 3. This is a great this is a great exchange. Attack and defense. When you're coming in for 1, I don't want to give up a card for that. Coming in for 1, I don't want to give up a card for that. Coming in for 1, this is becoming too many 1s.
It's a great way to filter.
Shut up.
Ben just sitting back there like, I like Prism. I don't know what everybody's problem is.
I love the game so much. I love this game. But just the meta of 1 sucks.
I would argue that 1 has always been important because 1 is a breakpoint. He's like
1 is a breakpoint.
Winter's Whale for 4. If it hits for 1, if it hits for 4, it doesn't matter. You're getting a frostbite.
Exactly. It's always been an increment of 1, but it's been an increment of 1, not 18 1s.
Fair.
Thank you. I'll get off my soapbox. But if you want to talk about it more, you can find me on social media.
So the one aura we didn't talk about was Parable of Humility, and that is there are tons of auras. But
there's so many auras.
Another one to note is Parable of Humility, which decreases your attacks by 1. Attack action cards, right? I should look at that now.
Attack action cards -1 while attacking and defending.
Yep.
Yeah, attack action cards controlled by opposing hero have -1 attack while attacking and defending. So that's a good way if you're fighting someone who you think maybe they have a lot of 6 attacks in their deck. That's a good way to stop them from popping your Phantasm as easy.
It's also so back on my thing about it's great against Go White heroes, against Rune Blades and Ninjas and the like, because even if you just have a Parable out and they don't want to deal with it, that buys you so much life throughout a game. You're turning for like every attack they do, that's 1 less damage you have to take. So like even if you're just not blocking, it buys you so much life.
Yeah, because even for like with ninjas, it's like head jabs or leg taps where it comes in for 2 or 3. Getting that knocked down to 1 or 2 is so much more viable than having come in for the full amount.
Mm-hmm. If like they let it sit unchecked against the right hero, like it'll buy me like 10 life in like 2-3 turns.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
She's just so well. She's just given so much. With actually, she's not been given a lot, but she's been given so much in the little she's gotten.
So one other aura that I think we need to mention, that is going to be, I don't know, were you going to talk about it, Ben? Were you going to say something?
No, I mean I don't know where you're going exactly.
Is it Arclight?
Yes, it's going to be Arclight.
Yep.
Arclight.
That was the next one on my list as honorable mentions. Is Arclight Sentinel. He's her best friend.
Essentially buys you a whole turn.
It does. If you play it at the right time, it is the perfect turn stopper, or just a way to say screw you.
What's interesting to note is if, let's say that you're on defense and you draw it. So you can't just be like, okay, well, I just drew it, my turn started, I'm going to play it and be done. You have to play it in response to something. So if the first thing someone does is attack you, that attack is still going to come at you. However, what's important to note, if someone says, okay, well, I'm going to break Crater Fist, and then I'm going to play this +4, and then you're like, okay, as a response, bam, Arclight Sentinel. So
anytime your opponent passes priority, you can play Arclight Sentinel and ruin their day.
Yep.
Yeah. Play in response to something to ruin their day. It can also, it costs 6. So let's be honest. If you don't play it on your turn, you're giving up that go again aura ability unless you have something else going on. Maybe you have some energy potions on the field.
Well, with Luminaris, you could easily on your turn say Arclight is in hand with 3 yellows. You could easily pitch 3 yellows to play Arclight Sentinel, and if you have any other auras, they're now all coming in for 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of it.
That's one of the best turns you can have.
But it is so much more viable to play as a reaction to something, and just it's either at the someone's like, I'm going to play Earthlore Surge, and you're like, cool. In my window of priority, I'm going to play Arclight Sentinel.
It's the best card when your opponents decide they want to put a lot of resources into an attack or into a chain of attacks, and you're just, nope, that's not going to happen this turn cycle.
Because the bad thing about when you go tall is that you are broadcasting that you're going tall. There's really no way around it, because even with Guardian, there's attacks like Tear Asunder. With Brutes, there's Barraging Bellows, Barraging Brawn Hide and Awakening Bellow. Right. And those cards, you're sort of announcing, I have a big attack coming. And what that does to a Prism player is say, once you play that action, I'm ruining your day. Now, with other heroes like maybe Mechanologists and Warriors and Ninjas, if they play an action before they play their attack, which is like a 50-50, maybe a 75-25% chance, you could be like, I'm gonna Arclight Sentinel and just ruin your turn. That will ruin their turn. But for characters or heroes that are doing, I'm gonna try and go for 12 damage this turn, you're basically saying your 12 damage means nothing.
So one thing that's important to note with Arclight Sentinel, if you do play it in response to something and someone feels like they are stifled from doing anything on their turn, they're going to Arsenal. And most likely that Arsenal spot, unless you cause them to defend a lot on their turn, most likely you might have just played that Arclight Sentinel to save yourself. They're going to Arsenal, so they're going to have more tools at their disposal on their next turn. So keep in mind what you're going to do when you're playing it.
But even on their next turn, it's like if you didn't destroy Arclight Sentinel, it's still there.
Oh, they have to destroy Arclight Sentinel, otherwise they're lost.
Yeah,
I'm saying, so like if you're down though, and it's the other person's turn, and they do something, and then you Arclight Sentinel because you're at a spot where you could be dead in a few attacks, then they're gonna go back and I have this card, I'm gonna Arsenal it, and then your next turn, if you've played all 4 cards. Because if you didn't draw other cards other ways, then you're going to be unfortunate because they're going to have a card in arsenal. Yeah. So be prepared to understand what the effects of your playing anything are going to do.
So you have 2 sides to the coin. You either have one, let's say you're playing a Guardian, they go, I'm going to Tear Asunder. The Prism in reactions like, well, I'm going to pitch 3 cards and play Arclight Sentinel from Arsenal. The Guardian can still just say, all right, well, I'm going to Winter's Well or Titan's Fist or a Nothos for whatever plus Dominate. It's going to hit Arclight Sentinel. It's not going to do anything. They're then going to possibly Arsenal either like one of the big dominated cards they have or just one of the really big attack actions. It's going to go there. Sure, that's fine. Or they're just going to play Tear Asunder, and then Arclight Sentinel gets played, and then the Guardian just goes, I would rather just not do anything because I had no other lines of play. It's you're ruining their turn either way. Mm-hmm. And
now
then
they're down to Tear Asunder.
Now they're down to Tear Asunder, yeah, which in Blitzer CC is detrimental. But if you got the Arclight Sentinel from Arsenal, all you need is 1 yellow in hand to come in for however many you need. And you just have to strip some cards away. So Arclight Sentinel is a nasty play on your opponent's turn. Also, it just flusters your opponent. Because then they're like, what do I do? I gotta do this and like try and play around this. Do I destroy it? Do I not destroy it?
Well, you
Stuff
have to
like
destroy it. There's no option to
You
not
have to
destroy it.
destroy it, but it's like, how do you destroy it in the way that's not hurting you the most?
What is also interesting, if you're a Prism player that carries a lot of auras, the one thing that's unfortunate, Everfest did introduce a few auras that could, but most of them do not block at all. They are instants, and they have no attack or block value. So you're going to be playing the aggro game, even though it's going to be the game of one. You're not going to have a lot of opportunities to block if you're just doing auras.
Yeah.
You don't need to block.
With auras, if you're making spectral shield, you kind of don't have to block that much because your spectral shield.
The beauty of Prism is hopefully the deck, the way you've constructed it, will buy you enough time to get set up with auras to where it doesn't matter. You just need one card in hand to have a good turn.
Yep. And
so
that one card in hand,
spectrals are supposed to buy you time, and your footsteps will buy you time. There's so much ways just to buy time.
Yep. Plus, even like keeping a yellow card on hand, I'm going to use Prism's ability and make a spectral shield. Now you have that yellow card in pitch. You have an extra aura that's coming in for one more than it was before.
And spending one health the next turn.
Yeah, she is just so good, and it's so annoying how good she is. And I feel like I say that every episode when we talk about a hero, that I'm like, it's so annoying how good this hero is.
The problem with Prism is she has really, really good matchups, but then she has really, really bad matchups too.
That is true.
Like, Viscerai before he got neutered was terrifying. Like, you just couldn't keep up with him. He didn't care how many auras you had, he was going to kill you through them all.
Yeah.
So now that he's done, I think Briar and Chain are both going to be scary into Prism. But
man, Viscerai really just got the teacher said, "Sit down, it's time out," and he was like, "Okay."
Well, I mean, the skeleton is going to hurt. Hurt Chain a little bit too, but mostly it's going to hurt.
Oh no, Chain plays Carrion Husk.
Like, I was going to say, Chain has Carrion Husk. It has the giant tank as a chest piece. It doesn't need Sonata. Briar is an interesting one, because she might have run Skeleton Husk, or,
Skeleton Husk.
Jesus.
Bloodsheath.
Skeleton Husk. Bloodsheath Skeleton.
There are decks that run Bloodsheath with Briar.
Yeah, there are decks that run Bloodsheath, but she could also do other things. She doesn't need lots of rune chance.
If you're playing like a Cheerio Briar, she benefits a lot from like just Findel Spring Tunic.
And just so everyone knows, the term Cheerio Briar, can you define that?
Just a bunch of zero cost attacks with Go Again, essentially. Just a super low resource hungry deck that will just do so much damage.
Not expensive Briar deck.
Yep.
I think it means Cheerio in the fact that Cheerio is a grain shaped like a circle, which is
bunch of zeros.
Which is what Prism or what Briar is. She is a bunch of zeros with bland flavor.
I like Cheerios.
I actually have Honey Nut Cheerios here.
So we've talked about auras a lot. I'll kind of move on. I'm sorry. Let's talk about some other cards. What are some of maybe the heralds or other attack actions that you guys
Herald of Erudition.
Yeah,
I was gonna say Herald of Erudition's a beater.
We'll start with Kayla. I guess you just said Herald of Erudition. Tell us what Herald of Erudition does, Kayla, or do you need
Herald of Erudition is a cost 2 light illusionist attack action. It naturally has Dominate, which is scary already. But if it hits the opposing hero, you put Herald of Erudition into your soul and you draw 2 cards. Which is disgusting.
So if you find yourself... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Herald of Erudition in the early game is essentially you're telling your opponent you either need to pop this or you're going to use armor. Because if I draw, you're not going to like that.
Yeah.
And in the late game, it's what's going to win you the game if they have no equipment left.
See, the fun thing is, it is an attack of 5. So with a block of 3 and equipment that blocks 2, you're going to block all of it. But like Ben said, in early game, blocking with your equipment that early might not be what you want, but it's what you have to do to get past this just horrible situation you've been thrown into.
Prism loves drawing cards.
Prism loves drawing cards and having cards enter her soul.
I would say if you are playing against a Prism, then you would save your equipment for dire situations and to block Herald of Erudition. Those should be the only times you use your equipment.
Don't use your equipment on any other heralds. Just use it for Herald of Erudition. Erudition. I said it funny.
Ben, favorite other card for Prism to use?
I'm gonna go with a common Wartune Herald.
Oh man, I was gonna say Ravager.
Wartune Herald is so good. The red is 1 cost for 7. So
yeah, that actually is really hard.
If you're playing Prism as you should with a lot of yellows, essentially you're pitching a yellow to play a Wartune, coming in for 7, and you'll have a resource floating, which is important once we talk about equipment. So just threatening 7 unless they pop it, you're giving them so much damage that they just really want to pop it. But then you can continue on with your
Some heroes cannot pop it.
So yeah, against the heroes that can't pop it, it's just a beat of a card. Like some of my favorite hands have been literally just like pitch and just a field of Wartune Heralds. Because it's just so much damage for so little effort.
Off 1 yellow and then still come in with like 8 auras. It's disgusting.
Wartune Herald being a common card is so good.
I thought you were going to say Herald of Ravages, which I really enjoy Herald of Ravages. One, the card art itself is beautiful.
That is true.
And Herald of Ravages does an arcane damage as well, right? If it hits?
If it hits, it does 1 arcane.
If it hits, it goes into Soul and it deals 1 arcane damage. And it comes in for cost of 2, damage 7. So it is 1 extra cost, but you are getting 1 arcane damage through.
And a Herald Focus Prism, it's a pretty solid beater.
So my favorite isn't a Herald, but so my favorite card in Prism is not one that is ran in every Prism because we've talked about it. Fractal Replication.
I don't run it in mine.
Yeah. So it's when Fractal Replication.
I love the card though.
When you play or defend with it, it gains the abilities and effects of all illusionist attack action cards on the combat chain. If its attack is equal to the greatest base attack, its attack is equal to the greatest base attack among illusionist attack cards on the combat chain. If its defense is also equal to the greatest base defense on the combat chain. So, how do you do this? Well, let's say you play that Herald of Erudition, and suddenly...
Yeah, I was going to say, it's basically an Erudition copier.
Yeah, if it gets blocked, well, guess what? Now I'm playing another.
Here's a second Erudition for cost 0 this time.
And the tricky part is that, actually the really fun part is, it's 0 cost. Which means that you don't have to have any resources floating or anything. You just need the action point to play it.
Yep, you just need that yellow pitch, which you probably... So, in the perfect hand, it's like you have 3 cards in hand. Pitch a yellow. Herald of Erudition. They blocked it all out. Cool, I have go again. Fractal Replication. It's now coming in for the exact same thing. Plus go again.
The next card, Fractal Replication.
I draw 2 cards. Fractal Replication for again. And then this time I'm going to Fractal Replication again. It's, oh my god, Prism is
I love the idea of Fractal Replication. In practice, it's so tricky though. In Prism at least.
It's
because
one of the... You go.
If you pop the Herald, it's no longer on the chain, so Fractal doesn't work.
Yep.
If the Herald hits, it goes into your soul, so it's no longer on the chain, so Fractal doesn't work. Pretty much Fractal only works if your opponent decides to do a full block on your Heralds. Which happens, but when it doesn't happen, it such a feels bad.
And if you are on the defense and you need to block something, then you need to find yourself in a position to play something else to block for it to copy that defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will copy a defense 3, whereas most auras will just be defense nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So at least you have a 6 defense, whereas you would have maybe a 3 defense and 3 auras that defend nothing.
It's a high risk, high reward card.
It is. It's one of those cards where you're like, if I had the perfect hand, it's wonderful. It's a game ender. But if you don't have that perfect hand, you start to wonder why you put it in the deck.
I am a player who prefers consistency over explosiveness myself. So
That's the thought.
Okay. So rounding it out, let's talk about equipment on the Prism, and we'll actually go reverse order because we'll start with the feats.
You want to talk about, the most important first is Phantasmal Footsteps.
So Phantasmal
100%.
Footsteps is a legendary, and it's really key, especially if you find yourself in a position that you're playing a lot of auras with Phantasm. So do one of you want to read off what Phantasmal Footsteps says?
Oh, I had it pulled up.
I mean, I have to go dig into my legendaries if you want to.
So, Phantasmal Footsteps is an illusionist equipment legs. The first time an illusionist attack action card you control is destroyed each turn, you may pay 1 resource. If you do, gain 1 action point. Whenever you defend with Phantasmal Footsteps, you may pay 1 resource. If you do, it gains defense. If you do, its defense becomes 1 until end of turn. If Phantasmal Footsteps defends a non-illusionist attack with 6 or more power, destroy it when the combat chain closes. I wanted to make that really nice, and I flubbed it.
So 2 parts to that. I think that the first part's really self-explanatory. That if someone pops a Phantasm, go ahead, use that ability. The second part, the defense for 1. What's really tricky about that is if it takes a lot of damage is coming through. So if someone sends a 4 attack your way or a 3 attack your way, and then all of a sudden they razor reflex it, and you chose to block with the Phantasmal Footsteps, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So personally, for me, I wouldn't block anyone or anything with it except a dash, maybe a Kadachi if you're feeling froggy, but
you have to understand pretty well what your opponent can do with what is in hand and what resources are available to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. With dash, it makes perfect sense for those
pistols.
Those pistol turns where the pistol comes in for 2. You could pay 1 and basically block 1 for the entire turn, because it does take actions to load the pistol, so it breaks the combat chain. Your feet go back to where they were, and you can use them on the chain again. That being said, as a Prism player, you're probably not that concerned about a couple of pistol shots, especially because the pistol shots are most likely aimed at your auras more than you.
Next, we'll talk about what's a common equipment that you can use for your feet. And really, I'll be honest, if you're playing Prism, you're going to get it, but you're going to get the Footsteps. But I think
if you want to play Prism competitively, you need the Footsteps. There's like no substitute.
The only reason I did not build Prism is because I didn't have them. And then I pulled them, and now I have this mindset of I can do it now. I have the means to do her now. But I still haven't done it because she confuses me. But commoner, time skippers?
I was thinking probably time skippers.
Time skippers, possibly, most likely time skippers.
It has to be that or just Ironhide legs for block.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's that or Ironhide, which is also released in the same set. You could, in theory, do Snapdragons for those heralds that cost 1. But if they pop the heralds, it doesn't make much sense. But if they don't pop the heralds, you now can do 2 attacks. But time skippers against certain hero matchups, who are likely to pop things, would make more sense for those big turns.
Also,
for the turns that... Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, for the turns that you can buff Erudition and give it a high number dominate to clinch the game, that would be the time you time skip, play something, they pop it. All right, I'm going to buff Erudition. It's coming for this giant dominate number. You can't pop it now because you popped the last one. That's it.
Let's move on to the arms. It's the common equipment. What do you guys?
Arms are interesting right
Dreamweaver.
now. See,
Weave them dreams.
Dreamweavers is great on paper. It's very flavorful, but most of the time, I have found out when I have them in my sideboard, there's not a single matchup in which I run them.
No, they're better in possibly Blitz, where you have the multiple sections, or Limited.
In Limited, they're great to have for closing games.
I mean,
in CC, where you kind of know you kind of know what you're getting into. There's just better options.
Yeah. For her, if you're actually like building her to be competitive, I would say almost Ironhide to get extra block where you need it, or Goliath Gauntlet for those Erudition turns, because now instead of a 5, it's a 7 dominate.
Let's see, I would do Dreamweavers to give the first attack not Phantasm, and then I would Fractal Replicate the not Phantasm attack. So, like, Dreamweavers, Phantasmify.
Yeah, that's actually very good. That's a very good turn. You are correct.
I'm not a combo gamer. I'm a consistency.
You're a 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I'm going to block your 17, and I'm going to do 1, 1, 1, 1.
I like running the Ironhide just for that extra block.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I thought you ran Ironhides, because I don't think I've seen you run Goliath.
No, I don't run Goliath. Not even in my sideboard. Which actually, what the hell's in?
What's in my sideboard?
So the chest and the head, I feel like those two intertwine, and your play style will reflect how they're going to be on each. So
they are definitely a little bit more adaptable.
I think that one line of thought, and this is probably what Ben runs. I think I've seen it. Is well, Ben, why don't you talk about what you run for it?
I run the Spring Tunic.
Spring Tunic. I'm gonna guess that you run Skullcap as well.
Yeah. Again, the Skullcap's for the block. I mean, those are what I generally run.
Not even Halo of Illumination?
Not in my sideboard. Essentially, the Skullcap is there for blocking. It's there for blocking when the turn. Well, Halo of Illumination it's good for loading soul, but if I'm doing what I should be doing, I shouldn't have that problem. And then,
sorry, what was that?
That Skullcap can make a huge difference, especially in the meta right now, where every defense matters. Honestly, if certain heroes like Starbow go out of the way, there might be an argument you can get rid of the Skullcap in certain matchups because you don't need the super block anymore. But
would you put in Halo, or would you put in something else?
I've seen a lot of people play Crown of Reflection, and I kind of get it. Crown of Reflection is really good.
Gosh, yeah, I forgot about Crown.
And Crown is something that should be in your, if it's not in your main board, it should be in your sideboard. It is a Majestic, and it does have Arcane Barrier. So it is something to, if you find yourself against the Viserai, that's your one spot to put that in to have Arcane Barrier. Or maybe
if I'm running into Runeblade, I usually play the Null Rune Gloves and keep the Skullcap. But the Crown of Reflection is definitely for the Kano matchup period. And then I've actually seen some people run it into. So I've seen some people run it into Guardian where they feel comfortable using it to play more auras down. Because that's what it's going to do, is it's going to give you an extra aura once per game.
But you do have to destroy in order to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, essentially the line of play is essentially you'll destroy a Spectral Shield, you play another 0-cost aura, is how it would normally work.
It's an instant. It's not an action, it's an instant. So you can do it at any point, but you have priority.
No, you do have to do it on your turn, I believe.
You do have to do it on your turn, but you have to do it during your action phase, but it is an instant.
What's the name of it again? I forgot.
Crown of Reflection.
Oh yeah, activate Crown of Reflection only during your action phase. That's the very last line.
Oh, never mind. So
essentially the best thing you can do with it is have your turn at normal. Let's say you have 2 free auras in hand. It's like a Shimmers of Silver and a Passing Mirage, and you can only play one because playing it uses your action point. So you can if you have a Spectral Shield out, you Crown of Reflection, destroy a Spectral Shield, play it out as an instant, You still have an action point, so now you play down the other aura.
It's also, if you have Otarath and Merciful Retribution out, you could basically destroy Merciful Retribution, deal 2 damage to said hero, and play an aura for free.
That is also how that would work.
Pretty spicy.
That is definitely pretty spicy.
She's so balanced. I'm glad they didn't say anything about her during the latest release about banned and suspended cards, because she doesn't need it.
You have one bad high octane draw and the world's against you.
No! Prism's been stupid good for too long, and no one's looking at her because Runeblade and Guardians are on both sides, and she's just hiding in the corner like, yes, continue fighting. This is great.
Only reason that she is good at all is because Guardian's so good right now, because she plays into Guardian well. Again, if aggro meta comes back, which it at this point probably will, she gets so much worse.
I think that she's going to need to have a mix between. It's kind of going to be more of the deck I have than the deck you have. I think it needs to be a mix of beatdown and aura, rather than just all in on one and all in on the other.
But it feels so good when you get a matchup that you know like you can't lose. Like if I sit down and play Oldhim, I'm like, okay, cool, this is a free game. Oldhim literally cannot beat Prism. I can't see a possibility where it happens.
All right, so the line that I would play Prism instead of Skullcap and Tunic, I would play Vestige of Soul, and then I would play Halo of Illumination. And the big thing to that is if I draw like that Tome of Divinity, or if I get something else in my hand that I really need a card to go into my soul this turn, I Hail of Illumination. It's a resource to put that in there, and then I get to draw a card depending on if the card meets the qualifications. And then Vestige of Soul, whenever I pitch, I get more when I pitch. So that turn typically is a big turn for me. And that's just on tap for, okay, I'm going to do this, I need it, and it's right here, and this is going to be the turn. Like, that is going to be the turn that I deal a bunch of damage.
Essentially, I run the Tunic just because you can play down a 4-cost aura with a blue. Or sometimes you just have an extra resource floating, and you want to make a Spectral Shield. So it comes in handy throughout the course of a long game.
For common stuff,
and in my deck, you definitely can't get a card in Soul reliably every single turn.
For common stuff, I would have said the chest.
Heart and Cross Trap.
Yes.
Heart and Cross Trap, hands down.
Except
it's
in
banned.
Blitz. Only in Blitz.
Blue.
Only in Blitz. Only in Blitz.
Welcome to the Deep Blue team. Heart and Cross Trap is gone for Blitz. It is now Deep Blue meta. Welcome.
Everything costs 2. What are you going to use that extra resource for?
And if you end up with like, I just have one card left in my hand that's going to cost 2. Like, okay.
An attack reaction, an attack with go again beforehand. There are so many things I can use one resource for. Who are you kidding me?
The Deep Blue, you could play, if you have Phantasmaclasm, you could bottom deck a card and then play the Phantasmaclasm.
Blue, you can 1, make an aura. 2, pitch a yellow. Play Herald of Erudition. Boom.
So,
great.
Heart and Cross Trap. And then move on to the head. Is there a common head?
Halo of Illumination's common.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Halo of Illumination is the common one.
So yeah, if you common headpiece, you play Halo of Illumination.
All right.
It's really good just to set up your soul.
And that's Prism.
That's Prism.
That's Prism. Thank you for watching. This has been Caleb and 86.
We're going to have a second channel soon for bloopers and outtakes and other fun content that 86 won't let me put on the main channel.
Oh dear. This is
trying to keep it not X-rated.
This is X-rated. The other channel is not gonna be. It'll be PG-13.
The other channel won't have a rating because it's not allowed. They won't have anything to classify. Okay.
Where do I have ideas? Stay tuned.
Oh dear.
Jesus.
Things she wants to say. All right. That is it. And have a good one. Thank you. Goodbye.
Deuces.
That means 2.